$200 straddle on this hand. Chris put in a big raise here. Nick is going to cold call with the threes.
Heads up.
We're going to go heads up to this pot. Nick in position. We are going to see another Chris versus Nick confrontation, and look at that. So easy for Nick, flapping bottom set. Every single pot he plays against Chris, it seems, he just flops the world. Chris going to go smaller here, and it looks like Nick may raise it up right away. No, he's just going to call. We are going to see a turn. Queen on the turn. Nick has a full house. Chris going to continue firing. He's going to go just under half pot. Nick again just going to continue as a call.
Well, that's a very big hand for Nick to have to not see any raises so far. Maybe there's a reason for it, but let's explore a little bit. I mean, we are up against a guy who chose to go by Ludacris, which, you know, implies bluffiness.
I mean, or it could just be a fun name off his name.
It could,
Chris.
but then you see that he opened King 10 off effectively under the gun.
Yeah.
And that means he's probably a pretty bluffy guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, they could have nicknamed him Christmas, but they didn't do that. They went Ludacris, so fair enough.
They didn't want to go holiday on it.
Yeah.
know?
Smart. Very smart. It's,
Yeah.
it's a minefield.
It's a definite minefield, and so is playing a set like this in some cases.
Yes. So many bad cards could
Right.
come.
So let's start on the flop. It feels like, as William Reynolds would say, a pristine opportunity to raise for Nick here. I mean, for all of the obvious reasons, right? It's a wet board. We can be put on draws by our opponent. Our opponent can have the same draws. Our opponent can also have a lot of value that will not fold, like queens and overpairs and sometimes nines. I don't see why we aren't raising for value here.
We also don't block queens, which is pretty great. Like
I noticed that. I noticed that with the threes that we don't block queens.
Yeah, like you know, if we had queen nine, we'd be blocking a lot of stuff that could call us, but we don't block any of that. Also, not only can we have draws and raise here, our opponent can continue with draws as well, but a lot of death cards are going to come on the turn, which would kill action if our opponent had ace, queen, kings, aces, things like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's get more money in right now. It sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, maybe the whole idea behind Nick's play is this is a bluffy guy.
Yeah.
It's a better expected value play for me to let him keep being himself than getting rid of all of his bluffs, which is way too many combos. So let's use that to my advantage.
He is in position that makes that decision much easier to abide by.
Yeah. All right, so we get to the turn. Nick gets his opportunity again.
Yes.
But should he get his opportunity again? Because it made sense for Chris to bet the flop. That was normal and fine. Is this a card that you should really be continuing with this combo on the turn?
I mean, it seems pretty sketch here. Nick has a lot of queens. He's never folding them. I think Nick is very unlikely to fold the 9 when we continue now because there's less queens. And Chris would check like pocket aces, pocket kings usually, right?
I mean, yeah.
Like
I think
pocket jacks, pocket tens, pocket ace 9. He'd check all that stuff.
Of course you would, because squarely in Nick's range is king, queen off, queen, jack suited, ace, queen off, some ace, queen suited. Like, it's a death card for overpairs.
My concern is that Chris has way too many bluffs here, not enough value, because he'd only have trip queens for value, and I'm guessing he'd bet most of his big draws here because he's betting king 10 when he's got the 10 of clubs in his hand, which blocks all the main draws.
Yeah, that's a problem. I think this is one of the hands you really can't be bluffing with anymore because we block all of the major draws with the 10 of clubs. It's very problematic. Now we do block king queen, which is nice, but that's really not enough.
We block queen 10 suited. But no, the queen of clubs is already out there. It blocks itself. Never mind.
Yeah, I love when it blocks itself.
Yeah.
So does Nick, who just calls. So this, once again, must be predicated on the idea that you're going to get a bet on the river from Chris because he's this bluffy guy. Otherwise, why would you not raise when Chris could absolutely have a ton of combos of queens in his range? He probably has queen 10 suited. He might have queen 10 off. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. He probably does since he has king 10 off, right? That, and also a lot of the times you would assume, without knowing, that Ludacris would also have like big draws in his range, not just this very weak draw, but like, ace jack of clubs, stuff like that, like straight draws and flush draws. I guess it'd be king jack of clubs there, right? King 10 of clubs, stuff like
ace
that.
jack of clubs too might call. I mean, all of these hands might call.
Right, they may all call. Like, why wouldn't we want to get value out of him now? If the draw comes in, we're going to get more value later, and if it doesn't, we get to extract value before our opponent knows they don't have anything.
The bigger deal to me is that Ludacris should absolutely have a decent amount of queens in his range, and he's not folding those. And we don't want any scare cards to come for those hands either. Let's put a big raise in and get maximum value.
I mean, it seems like the queen pairing is the perfect card to raise on.
Maybe it's just a reputational thing.
Yep.
I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see you at Nitrogen Sports when you use the link in our pinned tweet. Everybody wants to be there because of our Always an Overlay tournament.
Automatic overlay tournament.
You can call it any sort of thing because it is everything to everyone. That's because it's a lot of money for you. It's a lot of extra money thrown in the prize pool from Nitrogen. Get in there. Use the link in our pinned tweet. Get you some poker.
9 on the river. Now Nick can't feel nearly as good about his threes. He loses to a queen or a 9 here. And if Chris puts in the third barrel here, Nick is going to be sick.
$6,025.
Chris gonna go 6,000 on this river. We can't see his cards, but he opened this to 1,000 pre-flop, fired the flop, fired the turn, and now he's firing the river for nearly pot. And Nick with bottom full house here. Felt good on the flop, felt great on the turn, and now feels absolutely disgusted on this river. We can't see Chris's cards, but I think he is bluffing. That is my guess. He took a small sizing on a wet flop where he tends to size up when he makes stronger hands. He fired again on the turn when the queen pairs, which reduces the combination of queens in Chris's range, and Chris would probably just check all his overpairs on that turn. When he bets 6,000 on this river, he's basically just saying he has a queen or nothing. I think if I'm Nick, I make this call.
I'm fucking perplexed right now what to do. Without that river, I fucking snap you. Just can't figure out what to do. Did you put me on a flush draw? What are you doing?
I could be 100% wrong.
I'm sorry, guys. I fucking don't know. Fuck, I'm sorry.
Like I said, if I'm Nick, I put in the call here. We can't see Chris's cards, but he's just repping a queen or nothing, and I just don't think he has much queen
I
X
tell you
here.
this, Chris. I think you're gonna get paid, although I just folded like 40 times in my head. The only reason I think you're gonna get paid is because I don't think you think with me calling your raise and calling your bet that my range, the only thing I could have in there is a queen, and you're just betting I don't. But fuck, I just have I really think I should fold this. If it was against anyone but you, I fold this. I have threes full, just so you know. I think you're going to get paid. So if you're happy about that, that's good, because this is the one time you're going to get it. But I swear to God, I almost folded like 10 times. But I really should fold this hand. All right. You got a fucking queen?
Nick gonna put in the call.
What a river. What a fucking stinking piece of shit river. And the 25 is, what a joke.
When we get
You're just so stupid.
when we get the speech, we're getting the call.
The 25. Fucking 25.
I'm with him on the
What does that
25
mean,
though.
the 25? I really should fold this, but this is the one time I think you're going to get paid. You want to get paid? God, I swear to God, I almost folded like fucking 6 times, and then I'm thinking to myself, what does he think I'm doing? Like, how do I call the fucking turn? Six, and it's a fucking big bet. That can mean anything.
Well, Nick is always good for a long, talked out tank, isn't he? He loves to talk out those tanks.
He does. And when you got guns like that, all tatted up, you know, you can take as much time as you want because no one's going to tell you to. No one's going to call the clock on you. I'll tell you that.
Didn't somebody make fun of him right after he called?
Well, look at this bit right here. Yeah.
Chris with king high,
If you only had a full house, you'd have to think.
and Nick makes
What, are
the
you
call.
fucking as dumb as you look?
Yes.
He is Nick.
Look how mean Nick is. Nick like scares me, man. I would never say that to Nick because I feel like he's just gonna punch me in the face. and I
Well,
don't
he
want
might.
that.
He might now that he heard this podcast. And he's like, Jonathan Levy said that about me.
Why'd you have to put my name in?
His address is. Did that come through?
I think it. Did.
Okay, everybody knows the address now. Okay, good. All right, we didn't like the bet on the turn by Chris.
No.
What do you think we feel about the river bet on this extremely
Well,
polarizing card?
I know how I feel about it, and actually I know how you feel about it too. Because
Yeah.
we've already done a podcast going way more in depth in this hand. We are not fans of this bet at all.
No, I mean,
At all.
we never really had too much hope of folding out a queen. We now have zero hope of folding out a queen at all.
Oh, I mean, not only that, I don't like Nick's calls aren't just queens, right? On the turn, Nick also has nines, a lot of nines.
Some nines.
Guess what? I don't think he's folding a 9 either. I know he went through a lot of pain to finally call here with the pocket threes. First of all, 9s are better.
Yeah.
Second, they block things that 3s are losing to. But third, in practice, people almost never fold second full house to this kind of action.
Yeah, but that's not the bigger point. Is it's just a bad polarizing run out, and we still block the same things we blocked in the turn, which we don't want to block. We block the missed draws.
Exactly. That 10 of clubs looms so large. As the king does block king queen. The 10 in theory blocks queen 10, but it doesn't really because it'd have to be suited. But boy, does it block jack 10, and boy, does it block clubs. And those are the exact things we're trying to fold out, right?
It's just not a
Well,
board
jack
that
10, we're winning it.
it's just not a board that you can really confidently bluff 3 streets on too frequently.
What are we even trying to bluff? Okay, the nut flush draw. That's
Yeah.
the one thing we're trying to bluff. Everything else is either losing to us or never folding, I think.
Right.
So I guess we could bluff. We could bet here so we don't get bluffed ourselves. I mean, that sounds crazy.
I think it's possible that Ludacris is a hammer and everything is a nail. And nail is a bluff.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is. Now, luckily for him, Nick has one of the very worst hands he ever gets here with. Like, he often is going to raise a combo draw sometime along the way.
Okay, that's fair. Certainly the worst made hand, we think. I guess maybe you can have pocket 10s sometimes.
Maybe you can have pocket 10s. Pocket 10s might actually be a better call than this because at
Yeah.
least it blocks queen 10. So that's something, right?
Yeah. But it does block jack 10, though.
yeah.
But I hear you.
Yeah. So I don't know. It is a crappy spot as we see. Nick agonizes over this decision.
Boy, does he.
And we had a disagreement on our podcast. I think I convinced you
I think you did.
that this is not an easy call and should not be a call against most players. We have so many better hands in our range that we can call with very comfortably. We have lots of combos of queens that are just easy breezy calls. So fun to call with. Oh, what a joy. You know?
And we'd rather have a 9 in our hand, too. I guess when Chris sizes this way, maybe once in a while he's got 9s full of queens. Seems unlikely.
No, I doubt it.
But maybe, and then we'd block that as well as have a much stronger hand.
I really wouldn't even count on that.
I think we're just calling with all our queens. We're never folding all our any of our queens. We're calling with all our 9s, and then this is the interesting spot. And we now have to say, how bluffy is this player?
Right. I think it has to be a very bluffy player, or else you have to fold.
Well, I have good news.
He's a very bluffy player.
Ludacris, who opened King 10 off and went fire, fire, fire on this.
Yeah.
So, and Nick knows this guy well. He plays with him on Live at the Bike. Nick is the host in this game. He knows who Ludacris is. Still, he agonizes for a long time before he finally makes the call.
Right. And it's not because the 9 paired and he thinks Chris could have 9s full now. I don't think that's part of it.
No, it's just because a queen is now beating him. And he's like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Maybe in Nick's mind, he was going to make this great raise on the river and get called because Chris, when he has value, has trip queens.
Yeah.
And now suddenly he's losing to that, and it sucks.
Yeah. So I think actually this is going to be a fold against most players. But if you know your guy's bluffy, I guess you can call.
Yeah.
Is Ludacris solvable? That's the question we're asking here.
Wow.
Of course, everybody's solvable in poker. It's solver time.
Okay, let's do this.
All right. Back to the flop. It does want Ludacris to bet his hand on the flop, specifically because it contains a club. It would like him to check his other king 10s, which, okay, fine. We were fine with him betting that.
Sure.
We did want Nick to raise. The solver is okay with him calling. It's actually 50-50 on raising and calling. Feels like a really good opportunity to raise, but I guess, trying to be balanced and such, you got to call with some really strong hands. So
Yeah, for sure. And we are at least in position, too. That makes it a little better.
All right, let's get to the more interesting stuff.
Okay, cool.
The turn is where the solver really deviates from what we were saying.
Big time.
Yeah. It says Luda should bet with most of his range, which is just, to me, like, what? It's such a bad card to bet most of your range on. It hits Nick so hard.
It seems so hard to get folds here. Like, what are we folding up? We're folding up some pocket pairs below the 9.
Yeah.
We don't even know how many of those are calling on the flop anyway. Okay, let's say a lot of them are calling. Are they going to fold then? It's unclear to me. I'm really surprised that this card is a continue. It feels like a 9 is never folding ever, and that's a big part of our opponent's range.
Right. Despite all of this, though, the range-based thing, wanting to bet a lot of it, it wants him to check his actual combo. So even though it's like, guess what, poker guys? Solver thinks Luda was right. Oh, wait, never mind. He has that combo of king 10? Nope.
Yeah, but
nope, not supposed to bet that.
That's just lucking into it, though, right? That's like, we mean this for all king 10, except like a flush draw or something, right? Yeah.
And then Nick is supposed to call all the time.
What the heck, man?
So
that's weird.
We hate that. We obviously want to raise. In the podcast version of this, Jonathan mentioned that this is an opportunity that doesn't come around that often. Like a run out like this with a hand like this, you can really cooler a guy and get a full double, and it's not that frequent.
Yeah, like we just have to hope he's got a big hand here, like ace queen, king queen, something like that, and we can make all the monies. And we would hate to lose an opportunity to win that. Now, I guess part of the thinking is we can always get a raise in on the river if they've got trip queens anyway, right? They're going to call anyway. But there are some bad cards.
Yeah, like we see, there are some bad cards.
Well, that card means we can't get the raise in, right? But there are very few cards that are going to scare away trip queens from putting chips in on the river, which is the good news.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the plan. Of course, this is a scary hand for Nick, or a scary card for Nick on the river.
Of course,
not for Luda. Now, we really didn't like Luda going for it on the river.
Wow, do we hate that?
And guess what? The solver, it actually agreed.
The solver's my boy.
The solver's like, you should never, ever go for this. This is terrible.
Yeah.
Which, it did feel pretty bad on this extremely stagnant run out to do this.
I mean, the only good thing that can happen is we can maybe fold out pocket 10s and maybe fold out ace high. What ace high? Hard to come up with one.
Yep.
Pocket 10s, okay. We have a 10 in our hand. There aren't very many of them. I guess pocket jacks. I mean, it's rough.
It is rough. It's also a rough spot for Nick. The solver, even without knowing who Ludacris is, wants Nick to call 60% of the time. Of course, the solver is much looser with Luda's range all along than we want it to be. So that would make sense as to why I would want to call so frequently with a full house, even if it's a terrible full house.
Even though it's got a bunch of give-ups on this river, still, yeah. Knowing who Ludacris is, the solver would probably amp that up from 60% to, I don't know,
120.
Yeah, maybe a little more than 60. But blind to who its opponent is, it's like a little more than half the time it wants a call. Things got kind of whack there on the river. Finally, the solver agreed with us one time. But what do you guys think? Do you agree with us? Do you agree with the solver? Because we deviate pretty dramatically, especially on the turn, I would say, where we want Ludacris to check, and we want Nick to raise. The solver wants opposite actions, or it wants bet call instead. That is what happened. Do you guys think that that's ideal? We think from an exploitative point of view, there's just ways Nick can do even better here. Now, in this actual case, were he to raise, the hand would be over. But we're talking about against Ludacris's range and the implied odds we might get from a raise. Do you agree with that? Or do you think like you should just wait till the river anyway? You're in position. You're still going to get a lot of value from trip queens. That's a reasonable point. Let us know in the comments.
If you want to see all of the stupid things that Solver had to say about this hand, and of course I'm kidding because it's very interesting stuff, check out our Discord. There's a link in the description of this video. Wesley Cannon, who did the solver work, will post his work on the Discord. There is a thread that will be created for this hand. You can talk about this hand. We also have general poker talk. You can post your hands for review and analysis, and food fights, etc. Lots of fun. Join the Discord. We'll see you there.